Thanks. So, Andy, we've checked out. You'll let me know if she gets on this waiver or something.
Also Teams message me, I think.
Should we go?
It's 8:59, go for it. I think the attorneys are ready.
Good morning, This meeting is called to order. I'm Commissioner Randy Pinocci. I'm the presiding officer for this hearing. Commission Attorney Dan Pokel will be advising the commission. Commission staff are also present. This hearing is being transcribed by the court reporter, Darcy Bach. For the record, the time is 9 a.m. The day is Monday, May 20th, 2024. The commission and its staff are appearing from Baker, Montana in the office of the Fallon Medical Complex. This is a scheduled public hearing in docket number 202-402-027 involving Southeast Garbage LLC application for Class D certificate of public convenience and necessity. I will now take appearances of counsel. Please introduce yourself and who you represent. Let's start with Southeast Garbage.
Good morning, my name is Darcy Wasman. I am the attorney for Southeast Garbage LLC. And that consists of Fred Varner, Barry Varner, and Chad Varner, who are all here and present.
Thank you. G&G Garbage LLC.
Good morning, Commissioner Pinocci. My name is Jackie Pappas. I'm here on behalf of G&G Garbage LLC and Miles City Sanitation Services.
Thank you. Miles City Sanitation.
They're already done.
Already done. Okay. Yes, that was two. Recesses will occur at convenient times during the hearing. I will next ask public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Is there any public comment in the room? Is there any public comment online? See none. Let's move on to questions from the party. Questions? Okay. Are there any informational questions from the parties before we begin the evidential hearing?
Do you have any informal questions, anything?
I do have 3 witnesses that need to appear by phone. I think 2 of them have already been arranged for. Michael Malinowski, I was hoping that he'd be able to appear here today in person. He called me last night to let me know that he works in ranch construction and he's restoring water to a house today to like.
Can we address the witness, the remote witnesses in just a moment?
Oh yes, sorry, I thought that was.
Just informal, just in terms of like any setup, anything else that
Okay.
prior.
Based on parties' pre-hearing memorandums, are there any items that should be addressed?
There are a few items we should address.
Yeah.
Good. Concerning time allocation, as you know, this hearing has been set to conclude no later than Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. By our rough estimation, according to the pre-hearing memorandum.
Wait a minute. Don't pop, please. And I'm gonna have you speak up a little bit. I'm
Sounds
sorry.
good.
Sorry.
Is there any place you'd like me to start?
By our rough estimate.
By our rough count, according to the pre-hearing memorandums, collectively, the parties may be calling around 70 witnesses. Have the parties come to any agreement regarding time allocation to ensure the hearing is concluded by Wednesday afternoon?
We have not discussed it. I anticipate I would be done with witnesses by the end of day Tuesday. And if that works.
I'd suggest a 50-50 split on time.
If I may, we do have the burden in the case, so I think it's fair that we are allotted a little more time.
I'd say we can, let's see how far we get through by, today, and we can rediscuss some time allocation if there's no agreement of time. Each day. And we may be able, so we need to be out at 5 each day. I believe we may be able to start earlier in the day if necessary, in order to accommodate witnesses.
We started at number 10 then. Next.
I'll keep working through some list.
Okay.
Also, the party, we've been informed that the commission, we've been informed that there's been some requests for remote witnesses. I did not see any from G&G or Miles City Sanitation. If you'd like to discuss your request for remote witnesses, please do so.
So I have one witness who is available this morning at about 10 a.m. He needs to appear by phone. He assured me he would be within service at that time. His urgency is that he's restoring water to a person's house and forces water. So it's important that he remain down in Carter County so that he can do his job.
In the name of that witness?
Michael Malinowski. He was a shipper witness. That was disclosed, and also a representative of the town.
And then did you have other remote witnesses?
I did, I had previously requested Derek Leeson and Jeff Nelson that need to appear by phone this afternoon. And then I may have one additional that just informed me.
And by phone or by, would it be able to do Zoom?
I'm not certain on this afternoon's. I don't know what their phone capabilities are. I know they're out of town and have cell service. If they have a fancy phone, and are tech savvy, they should be able to do Zoom, but I'm not certain of that.
Certainly. Is there any objections to the Michael Malinowski today, or the other two witnesses, Derek and Jeff?
Commission, I believe the other two were timely disclosed, but Mr. Malinowski was not timely disclosed per the commission's order on timing. So we just lodge an objection for the record on that basis.
Would you like to speak?
I think
would you like to respond to the objection?
I think that his reason for not being here is kind of one of urgency, that he's helping somebody get water restored to their house. And so I would ask that it be excused.
Well, we'll consider the objection and make a ruling on it when we get to that witness.
Sure.
Otherwise, the other two witnesses may appear remotely. Are there any other accommodations needed for any witness, Ms. Wassman?
I don't believe so.
Ms. Pappas?
I don't believe so.
Perfect.
Number 10.
Sure.
Next, let's address the admission of documents the parties have filed, pre-hearing memorandum, identifying various documents they propose to admit into evidence. Commission received an objection from G&G and Miles City Sanitation concerning southeast garbage proposal. The commission also received an objection from southeast garbage. Considering the objections presented, I believe it is appropriate for the objecting party to raise such objections if or when particular exhibits are moved to be admitted into evidence.
Typically, council, we at a lot of the evidentiary hearings that the commission holds, we often move a lot of the evidence in immediately at the beginning of the hearing through the pre-hearing process, but based on the objections, we thought it was, and the substance of the objections, we thought it was best to allow parties to move the documents into the record one by one, like more traditional style that we see. That's how our last garbage hearing went as well. Parties would lay foundation and then move for evidence or move for the admittance of evidence as it goes along, comparatively to moving it all. Give opportunity to move maybe some of the non-objected to evidence in right now for convenience sake. But I'll let Commissioner Pinocci continue on. Just thought I'd kind of let you know how normal proceedings and how the garbage proceedings have been modified a little bit.
Documents subject to stipulation are admitted into the evidentiary record.
Let's go. Let's see. And is there any stipulation to any advance of evidence? I know you two discussed.
We did discuss in the hallway that we would stipulate to the introduction of the application and both protests.
Application and protest.
Both protests.
So we can start with Southeast garbage dump.
So this is what it said right now.
Okay, the documents subject to the stipulation are admitted into the evidence record. Let's start with Southeast garbage.
I can.
Oh, go ahead.
So as I mentioned, we do allow the admittance of evidence subject to pre-hearing objections to be moved in. So we'll work through a few of those. We'll start with you, Ms. Wassman. So let's start with Southeast garbage. Ms. Wassman, would you like to make a motion at this time to admit any particular documents into evidence, specifically those documents or exhibits not subject to a pre-hearing objection? Is there any other documents that were not subject to a pre-hearing objection that also were not stipulated to just prior that you'd like to move at this point?
If I recall, I believe all of the exhibits were objected to, so I don't know that there's any that haven't been objected to. Can we address them that even if they were despite an objection? Or are you just saying?
I prefer to wait to discuss those as those are presented.
Okay.
Based on, I think most of them were lack of foundation, and there was some discussion of an opportunity to lay that foundation at the hearing for most of those documents in the pre-hearing memorandum.
And I think some of these are self-authenticating as they've been filed with the PSC by the party and are accepted from hearsay as a admission and statement of a party opponent. So I would think that G&G's objections and responses could be admitted as overcoming that foundational challenge and relevance.
So the pre-hearing memorandum.
No, the G&G's responses to the data requests.
Got it. If there was any objections to, we'll work through this one since it was brought up.
Sure. I don't have an objection to the substantive responses. There were a lot of objections on behalf of the parties filed, and so those are, nobody moved to compel anything there, and so I'm just not sure about the appropriateness of including everything here.
Okay. So I'm comfortable moving in the responses to the the G&G Mile City's responses, which include the objections.
Which are what, I'm sorry.
Do they have comfortable moving in the responses to the data requests from G&G and Mile City Sanitation? Do you have a number, base number for that, for the court reporter?
Yes, so I have mine marked as Exhibit 4. I have a couple of other exhibits if we can address them, in that I'm not planning at this stage to admit them through a witness, because I think there's
Proceed.
yes, procedurally, I think they can be. I do have G&G's annual reports, 2015 through 2018, 2021, and 2023, which were available on the PSC website. I have those marked as Exhibit 2, and I would move, I would ask that the commissioners take judicial notice of that, because it's a fact readily determinable by them, it's in their records. And then I would also ask the commission to take judicial notice of any annual reports that were failed to be in their records.
Ms. Pappas, any objections?
I have an objection to the characterization that reports failed to be filed. I don't think there was a failure of filing. I think that the PSC's new ready system might not have picked up everything.
And so
Response.
if not available through the system, if the PSC has them, I would just ask that they take judicial notice of the annual reports that were filed, if any were missing, and then the contents thereof.
And I would still object to that. I think that's something that would be subject to foundation, asking questions of the witness.
The objection is going to be overruled. The commission will take judicial notice of annual reports that are on file with the commission as they are readily available to the commission, the commissioners. Further evidence to be moved in at this point.
Again, it's a piece of information that was not provided by G&G, but I believe that it should be on file with the commission, is any lease agreements and any approvals to operate under a lease agreement. Because as I understand the statute, those certificates can be leased with approval of the commission. And so I would just ask the commission review their records for any initial filings or subsequent requests for approval to operate under a lease, and then any lease agreements.
Ms. Pappas?
No objection to the extent that she's requesting judicial notice of documents on hand at the commission.
Judicial notice will be taken of any lease agreements of, did you say both G&G and Miles City Sanitation, or specifically?
I would say
lease
both.
agreements?
I would say both as they relate to the service, if they relate to the service area.
And I guess I'd object on Mount City. I don't believe that there's any lease applicable here. I don't think it's appropriate to take judicial notice of something that doesn't exist.
That objection's sustained. We'll take judicial notice of you said Miles City, excuse me.
Miles City operates under authority under its own name. G&G does lease authority.
We'll take judicial notice of G&G's leases.
Okay. And then the last thing I would ask the commission to take judicial notice of is just the number of affidavits received in support of the application.
We would object strenuously to that. The commission can only consider evidence that is presented at the hearing if we don't have folks subject to cross-examination. I think that is a due process problem on our part. And I can brief that further if you need to.
I think the number of affidavits that were submitted with the application is that's readily able to be determined by the commission, and I'm just asking for the number, not the content, but I can also call a witness and go over that.
So the only extent that you'd like is the number,
number.
not the contents. Do you object specifically just to judicial notice of a number of?
Yes, as laid out in our objection to the exhibits, some of these objections don't have people's names. Some of them don't have any content as to why they're objecting. I don't think that those sort of things are indicative in any way of a problem. If you don't say why there's a problem, I do object to anything of that nature being put in.
At this point, the objection's overruled. We'll take judicial notice simply of the number, not of the contents of because that is readily available on file with the commission in terms of both the pre-hearing memorandum discussed the amount of affidavits, and we received the whole compilation within the application.
And if I may be heard
Sure.
on that, the commission has traditionally considered the evidentiary record and the administrative record separately, and only considered in terms of the decision-making in a Class D case, the evidentiary record. If it's not something that's put forth in the evidentiary record, I continue to object that it's inappropriate and a due process violation to consider that as part of a decision.
Certainly. Thank you. Any further documents, Ms. Watson?
No, nothing additional, thank you.
Ms. Pappas, similarly,
Certainly, I think the only exhibit offered by G&G and Miles City Sanitation Services that was objected to by Southeast is Exhibit G. I would first ask that the commission move all the other exhibits in if there's an objection. And then as to Exhibit G, if I may be heard.
well, let's see if there's any objection. Ms. Wassman, any objection to the moving of, or the admittance of all the evidence not subject to a pre-hearing objection for both G&G and Miles City Sanitation?
I would object to, I withdraw that. Would the commission consider amending, or would Ms. Pappas consider just admitting Southeast responses to the data requests instead of picking and choosing?
I think we identified the responses that are relevant to our case. If Ms. Wasman wants to move for the introduction of things in her case in chief, that would be within her purview, I suppose.
If I could just have a minute to double check.
Of course.
So I will object to J. And L through X. But I would move to admit Southeast Exhibit 6, which is Southeast responses.
For clarities, you're objecting to exhibit filed exhibits J, L through X,
Correct.
which are Southeast responses to the data requests.
To the extent that it's only some of the responses. So
If I'm not mistaken, you
So I-
just mentioned you
yes,
are looking to move.
So, okay,
One at a time, one at a time.
You're looking to move, you're objecting on what basis?
so, okay, I'll withdraw my objection.
With the objection withdrawn, would you like me to address exhibit G? Our proposed exhibit G?
Was that also one which,
That was the only exhibit that was objected to by Southeast.
let's wait to move, so we can move in all besides G as previously mentioned, all not
Okay,
subject to a
and
pre-hearing.
I
If
One
you-
at a time. It's really important. It's one at a time.
If you'd like to address that after, we'll give Ms. Weston a moment to,
Can I have a moment to confirm?
certainly. Once we get to this. Speak up, so.
So right now, this will be our next step.
Yeah, she's, so right now, Ms. Bevis is.
So she.
I don't have any objections to the exhibits. However, can I address exhibit G?
Oh. We'll have Ms.
Okay.
Peppas make a motion to move that into evidence. and
Okay.
Address that once we get there. One moment, though. Seeing no objections to the exhibits listed in G and G's pre-hearing memorandum besides exhibit G. The motion is granted and the identified documents are admitted into evidence at this point. Ms. Peppas, would you like to speak to moving exhibit G in?
Certainly. Exhibit G is the annual reports for the remaining garbage hauler in the applied for area. These trash removal LLC. These are documents that I believe the commission could take judicial notice of. In the same manner, Ms. Wassman asked for judicial notice of the other documents. I believe it's relevant to the hearing because it speaks to the ability of existing carriers to meet any needs in this area.
Any objections?
My only question was, there were no years identified, but I have no objection. Jen.
And if you wanted to take 2017 forward, that's fine with me.
That's fine.
Any objection to 2017 forward?
No.
The Southeast Trash Removal LLC's annual reports from 2017 through present are so taken as judicially noticed. Are there any other documents at this point we'd like to address? Seeing,
One moment, just. Okay. No, nothing additional.
finally, are there any other formal pre-hearing matters that the parties would like to bring to the commission's attention, such as any other stipulations or evidentiary motions, just to make sure we're covered on all bases before we head into the cases?
I do have an objection to too many books. I have an objection to the protestants' witnesses being used as expert witnesses, as I have not received any of their qualifications or experience that would qualify them to speak to those things. I did request information as to experts, and it was indicated that any witnesses who would become in that realm, I would receive information as to their credentials and experience.
Ms. Pappas, would you like to speak to that?
The witnesses that were disclosed were disclosed as hybrid witnesses. They're not disclosed as traditional expert witnesses. They're only going to speak to what is within their purview as operating their businesses in the garbage industry.
The objections overruled. Allow the witnesses to speak as hybrid witnesses as disclosed in the pre-hearing memorandums. Is there, Ms. Pepez, or sorry, Ms. Wassman, any other
I don't
matters?
believe, I don't believe so.
Ms. Pepez, any other pre-hearing matters?
And I guess just to clarify for my part, the remaining exhibits that weren't moved into evidence on 4 Southeast, we will just deal with case by case as they come up, correct?
Correct.
That's your preference?
Correct. So the parties will move them in as those documents are presented and discussed throughout the evidentiary hearing.
Thank you.
The purpose is primarily of convenience to move in any other documents prior to the examination of witnesses.
Thank you.
Let's proceed to opening statements. Would applicant Southeast Garbage like to make an opening statement?
Yes, sir, thank you. I would first like to welcome you all to Baker and Fallon County. Thank you for coming all this way to the very east side of our great state. I would like to thank Commissioner Pinocci for presiding over this matter and for taking the time to consider Southeast Garbage LLC's application for a Class D Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. Under the statute of Montana, Montana Code Annotated 69-12-323, if the commission finds by a preponderance of the evidence that public convenience and necessity require that the authorization of the service proposed by Southeast Garbage or any part of the service proposed, if it requires authorization of the service, then a certificate of public convenience and necessity must be issued. The burden of proof, preponderance of the evidence, is something that is more likely than not. It isn't by some great margin, just ever so slightly in one direction. Montana Code 16-12-323 provides that the commission shall consider the transportation service being furnished by the existing transportation agencies, the likelihood of the proposed service being permanent and continuous throughout 12 months of the year, and the effect that the proposed service might have on other forms of transportation service, and you may consider competition. Those issues are expanded by the case law, as you know, and those issues will be supported by substantial and sufficient evidence and testimony and the annual reports of the existing providers. The threshold issue that we will address through witness testimony is whether Southeast Garbage LLC is fit, willing, and able to provide the services requested, which is transporting garbage between all points and places within Webo, Fallon, and Carter counties. Many of the witnesses that we will call today and tomorrow will testify that they have known Fred and his boys, Barry and Chad, for many years, if not their entire lives, and they support their application. They will testify about Fred's reputation for running meticulous, mechanically sound, and clean equipment. They will testify as to their confidence that Fred and his sons, through their company, can provide the services that they're requesting in their application. The elements that further expand upon their fitness to provide the services, the first element is their financial condition. Fred, Barry, and Chad are the 3 founding members of Southeast Garbage. They will testify about their financial condition and their ability to acquire the equipment that is needed to provide the service. Dean Wang, the president of the Bank of Baker here locally, will testify about his knowledge of Fred as a long-standing business owner, his knowledge of his financial condition, and that he would have no hesitation in lending Fred funds, including up to $1 million if Fred should request it. They will testify as to their intention to perform the services sought. Fred, Barry, and Chad will testify about their intentions to perform the services. They will testify they see a need for the service within the community, and they would like to provide this service to the community, to their community and the surrounding communities. They'll testify to their concern, their commitment to their community, including their deep roots and ties to this community and the people in it. They will testify about their intention to provide permanent and continuous service for 12 months of the year from the time their application is granted until for as long as they can. The next element that supports their fitness or that is related to their fitness to provide the service is the adequacy of equipment that the applicant has to perform the service. Of course, they have not purchased garbage trucks since they haven't been given the certificate yet to do so, but they will testify they've priced out equipment, including trucks, residential garbage containers, various sized roll-off containers. They will testify that that equipment is available to them in the immediate or near future and can be delivered here, and they are ready to purchase it should their application be approved. They'll testify about the shop and the office space that they have secured, which is available to them for use when their application is approved. Next, their testimony will cover their experience in conducting the services that they seek. Because they don't have a certificate to haul and transport garbage as of this time, they have not done that exact thing. However, Fred will testify that he has consulted with previous garbage servicers in the area, employees, about the routes, the equipment, the time and hours that it takes to service the needs in this community. Fred will testify about his experience working in the oil field industry, his experience operating heavy trucks and equipment with his commercial driver's license, knowing the safety rules and regulations, his experience as a business owner, and employing between 20 and 50 employees since the 80s, depending on the highs and lows of the industries. He'll testify about his familiarity with taking and providing safety training and maintaining a fleet of vehicles. Barry and Chad will testify about similar things, including their work experiences, operating trucks and other equipment with their commercial driver's licenses, which all prepares them for providing the garbage transportation service in this area under their application. The next areas, or the next issues that will be addressed through the testimony of the witnesses that we will call are whether there's a public need for the service that Southeast Garbage proposes to provide, and whether the existing carriers, G&G and Miles City Sanitation, can and will serve that public purpose without the new operation or service. Those are two separate issues, but they're very much related, and they will be addressed by the witnesses that we call. The witnesses that we will call will testify that they're demanding timely service with better equipment and better customer service and better follow through when they have a concern or a complaint. The testimony about the current service will show that there is a need for better service and a new provider in the service area. The town officials and employees of Ecoaca, some of them, will testify about their knowledge about the lack of services that they've received, inconsistent pickup times, and times when the garbage wasn't picked up for weeks at a time. They'll testify about having to unload garbage by hand while they wait for the containers to be picked up. They'll testify about improper billing, being billed for times when their garbage wasn't picked up, and then their customer service experience when they call in a complaint. They will testify that the current provider is not meeting their needs, and they'll testify that they support Southeast Garbage's application. I expect a town council person and an employee from WeBo to testify. I expect them to testify that they've been having issues trying to get service from G&G. They have complaints about their billing and not being billed sometimes at all. And they will testify about their dissatisfaction with the service. And they will testify about having to call several times in an attempt to get their container picked up and how it affects them and all of the people in their town. I will call Fallon County Commissioner Braun, who I expect to testify about Fallon County's dissatisfaction with the service that they had with G&G, and how they were able to terminate service with G&G and did so in October of 2023 due to their dissatisfaction with the service. I will call many residential and current commercial customers of G&Gs who will testify about their inconsistent and delayed service, mechanical problems that they had observed with the equipment, problems with billing, and then failure to address their complaints. And many of the witnesses that I call will testify about their loss of trust in G&G that they can provide these services in the future. I expect former employees of G&G to testify about the operations, conditions, employee turnover, safety concerns, equipment problems, and company maintenance of the equipment, and also customer service while they were employees of G&G, which demonstrates a larger and systemic problem within their company. Another issue that the commission must consider is whether the new operation or service can serve the public purpose without endangering or impairing the operations of the existing carriers contrary to the public interest. And I do stress that it's only if it's contrary to the public interest. So competition and loss of even one customer is a negative effect on a business. However, the testimony will all support and show that it's not contrary to the public interest, but rather in the public's interest and is in fact demanded and asked of the customers. Miles City Sanitation has filed a protest with the commission, which has now been admitted, and they show no reported revenue that will be affected by Southeast's application. And I expect that, G&G's annual reports, which have also been admitted, they reported in their protest that their annual revenue in the service area is $399,000. I believe in their annual report, which was filed with the commission in 2023, their interstate revenue was $460,470, which is 6.9% of their total revenue reported, which including interstate. They have a much larger service area and receive interstate revenues as shown by their annual reports, which doesn't support the idea that their entire operations are endangered. And the final issue that's very connected to all the other issues is whether competition would impose an undue hardship and impair the existing transporters' ability to provide service to an extent contrary to public interest. The witness testimony that you will hear is that the threat of competition has already improved their service since they signed affidavits. And many witnesses have noticed improved service very lately. That just supports the idea that competition would be beneficial to this community and improve service by not only the existing providers, but if Fred's application is improved, everybody will be at the top of their game, providing the best service that they can for the area, and it only benefits the public. The customers in the service area through their testimony are demanding another option and to have a choice. It's a win-win for the public. At the end of our presentation of all the evidence, Fred Varner, Barry Varner, and Chad Varner, as Southeast Garbage LLC, ask that you approve their application for a Class D certificate of public convenience and necessity. Thank you.
Says generally with protestants.
Okay, with protestants, like to make an opening statement.
I would prefer to reserve until our rebuttal case.
All right, Ms. Wasserman, you may proceed with your case in chief.
Thank you, Commissioner. I would call Buck Kratzer as my first witness.
Okay, so
Do I swear?
everyone. Witness at some point, so we can take.
All right, I'd like to ask all witnesses to please stand and raise your right hand.
All witnesses who expect to be testifying throughout the next few days. The commission tends to do a mass swearing in, again, out of convenience. If you're here, we'll swear you in now.
Do you swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, counsel, any of your witnesses are not currently present, please notify me now at the time your witnesses are called to testify so that I may swear them in and to provide testimony. So we have more witnesses
Yes,
not sworn.
make a note.
Any objections?
No witness, Ms. Glassman.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Kratzer.
Morning,
Could you state your name for the commission?
Buck Kratzer,
Could you spell your last name?
KRATC.
Where do you currently live?
Ecolaka, Montana,
How long have you lived there?
11 and a half years.
What is your current occupation?
I'm a business owner,
What are some of the businesses that you own?
I'm a grocery store, hotel, construction business.
Are you married?
Yes,
And do you have kids?
Yeah.
What does your spouse do?
she manages the grocery store.
Do you have any other governmental occupations?
Yeah, almost up there.
And how is it that you came to be the mayor?
I was elected
Okay. How long have you been in that position?
just over 2 years.
Is that position full-time or part-time? How often are the town's meetings?
Once a month.
Does the town of Ecolaka provide a garbage service?
It provides a site to take your trash to. It doesn't provide a pickup from residence service.
And where is this transfer site located?
Approximately 2 miles west of Ecolaka.
Can you explain the setup of this transfer site?
As in the physical layout or
How many containers it holds,
it
kind of the
holds
general layout?
3 containers, and then there's a steel pile, dirt pile.
Who owns the containers?
The city of Ecolaka.
Who's allowed to use the transfer site?
Anyone pays a water bill or pays the transfer site fee.
Is there an attendee at this transfer site?
Yes,
How often is it open?
every Tuesday and Saturday. And it's seasonal, sometimes in the winter it goes to Saturdays.
What happens to the garbage after it's placed at the transfer site?
It is transferred from the transfer site to the Coral Creek landfill.
And who transfers it?
G&G garbage.
And is that a service that the town contracts with G&G?
Yes.
How often is it scheduled? Or I'll withdraw that question. Is it scheduled pickup or as needed?
It's as needed, I guess. It's usually on an on-call basis when the dumpsters are full, calls made.
How is G&G? I'll withdraw that. Who notifies G&G?
Usually the dump attendant or the town secretary.
You indicated there were 3 containers at the site.
There's 3 site locations, 4 containers. There's usually 2 to 3 dumpsters at the site. The town owns 4 dumpsters, but one is usually in Baker. So they bring them in a rotation. So there's usually one up here so they can bring empty, drop it off, pick up a full.
Are there times when more than one container is full?
Yes.
Are there times when all of the containers are full?
It has been full.
What happens after you call for service? Is it then picked up every time?
Well, not every time.
So tell me about the times when it is not picked up.
Oh, there's been times that we were told that there was a dumpster brought to Ecolaka, like there, in the one instance, there were 3 weeks in a row that we were told dumpsters were brought to Ecolaka. They were not being brought to a transfer site, they were being brought to a demolition site. And our dumpsters got so full that we ended up having to take the city dump truck and backhoe to the transfer site, have people unload their garbage into the backhoe bucket and dump it into the back of the dump trucks. The service was so far behind.
And had the town called for service on that
Yes.
occasion?
Multiple times.
Do you have any complaints about the billing from G&G Garbage?
Yeah, there's been times where, well, one time that we caught on our dump cameras or our transfer site camera where their truck just came down, drove through and billed. And the secretary called and asked why the truck just drove through and didn't pick up the dumpster. And we said, well, it was the wrong truck. The truck that picks up your dumpsters is in the shop.
And you saw it on camera and it did not pick up a container on that occasion.
Yeah. It just drove through the yard.
When did these types of issues that you describe begin?
Well, long before. Of the service. Probably since I've lived there.
You stated you are also a resident of East Blackhawk.
Yeah.
Were you personally affected when there are issues with the transfer site?
Yeah.
And how are you affected?
There's been times that they've closed the dump when I was, on dump day, everybody loads their pickup up with whatever they have. Dump. Get out there and it's closed because all the dumpsters are full, there's no more room. You gotta turn around. Wait till hopefully they pick up the dumpster. It's like, so.
What does Ecolab need in terms of garbage service?
A reliable garbage service.
Can G&G meet your needs?
Well, they've had plenty of opportunities to, and they haven't.
Have you observed that the service has gotten better?
No.
Do you know Fred Varner?
Yes.
Do you have an opinion as to whether you believe Fred will be able to meet your needs if he's given this certificate?
I'm gonna
told-
object on that one. Opinion testimony would not be appropriate here. It's not one of the elements we're going to be needing to meet at this hearing.
Not one of the elements, what?
That the applicant will need to meet at this hearing isn't based on a layperson's opinion of the applicant.
I would
Would you
say,
like to speak to that?
yes, I would say it absolutely is one of the elements. His ability to perform the service, his experience in providing the service, and I believe it goes to character, and which is at issue, the character for providing service to the community, providing a public service, and that can be laid with witness opinion based on character and reputation in the community.
And I don't think a layperson's opinion goes to the ability to haul garbage or not in this community, which is what we're looking for at this hearing here. So I continue to maintain my objection.
I can rephrase.
Feel free to rephrase.
Okay. Have you ever done work for Fred?
Yes,
Are you familiar with how he operates his business?
partially.
What are some of your observations?
Well, he runs a really clean, organized yard from what I can see. Always did what he said he was gonna do and seems to manage his operation very well.
And did he pay you on time?
Yes,
Do you support Fred's application?
100%.
And would you and the town of Ecolaka consider using Fred to provide your service should his application be approved?
Yes.
No additional questions.
Before we get to cross-examination of this witness, it is 10 o'clock. I wanted to be mindful of the one request around 10 o'clock. However, I will suggest that we maybe take a recess for a minute or two prior to that, to see if we can even accommodate that on our end, technologically speaking, before we get into that portion. Does 5-minute recess sound okay to the parties, just to think about the technological setup of that witness?
Yes.
potentially?
I think that's-
Um,
We will take a 5-minute recess. For the record, the time is 10 o'clock. And we'll resume the hearing at 10:05. We're off the record. We're back on the record. The time is 10:06 and we'll now resume the hearing. For the record, Commissioner Annie Bukacek is online. Ms. Pappas?
Thank you, Commissioner Pinochi. Mr. Kretzer, do you live within Ecolaka?
Yes,
And your grocery store, motel, and construction business, are they all within Ecolaka?
yes,
And do you receive garbage removal services from your home and businesses?
Yeah.
And who does that?
well, it's our local private service.
Would that be Southeast Trash Removal? And do you take any issue with Southeast Trash Removals services in Ecolaka?
Is that, I don't remember, that's not that.
Okay.
I would have an objection to that. They haven't filed a protest. Their service is not an issue.
Deborah, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you. The applicant has moved to haul throughout Fallon, Carter, and Weebo County. And whether or not somebody has appeared, I think the question of whether an existing hauler can and will meet that service is a relevant question for the commission to consider. We have moved their annual reports into evidence of their existence here.
Overruled.
Continue.
Thank you. So going back, you're not sure if the name of the company is Southeast?
Isn't that what you're, can I speak freely? Yep. Isn't that gonna be the name of your
Or Southeast Garbage.
Southeast Garbage? So it is trash removal. My wife pays the bills, so I'm not 100% sure what but it's a privately owned trash removal company that picks it up from the residents and takes it to the transfer site.
Okay. And you are not concerned with their services?
No, they run an excellent business.
And are you aware that Southeast Garbage, the applicant today, is applying for to haul in all of Carter County?
Yeah.
Which would include Ecolaka? Do you think you need competition for services within Ecolaka?
I think competition is always welcome. It shouldn't be restricted by license.
Does the town of Ecolaka have a contract with G&G?
Yes.
Would you be able to produce a copy of that contract?
Yep.
If the commission requests it? And have you reviewed that contract?
Not recently.
So are you aware of the terms of that contract?
Not 100%.
You mentioned, I believe, that the containers that the town of Ecolaka uses, that's 4 containers, correct? And the town owns them?
Yeah.
How often does the town update its containers?
As needed.
When's the last time a container was updated?
Before I was mayor.
And you've been mayor for 2 years, so not in the past 2 years. And does the town repair the containers itself?
As far as I'm aware, we haven't needed any repairs since I've been there. So I don't know what the previous procedure was.
And has anyone at G&G ever informed the town that its containers were inadequate? Has anyone ever informed the town that the containers were causing damage to G&G's vehicles? Who would know?
Probably the town secretary.
Okay. You mentioned that the town secretary makes a call for a pickup service, is that correct?
Either her or the dump attendant.
Okay. And the dump attendee is also a town employee?
Yes.
And when you say makes a call to G&G, who do they call?
I'm sure.
You don't make those calls, so you can't say. So when you stated that you had calls for service that weren't answered, you don't have personal knowledge of that?
Secretaries. I guess all I have is the secretary's word.
Okay, but you don't have personal knowledge?
No.
You mentioned there were times when all the containers were full. Do you recall that testimony?
Yeah.
How often are all the containers full?
Varies.
Okay. Once a month?
No,
Tuesday?
not once a month.
Less than once a month?
Yes.
Once every 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, it varies, but it's happened several times.
Okay. And when you say several times, is that during the period you've been mayor?
Once since I've been mayor.
Okay, so once in the last 2 years? Okay. And you've lived in Ecolog, I think you said about 11 and a half years?
Yep.
So a couple times prior to that? Okay.
You need to answer yes or no.
Yes.
Yeah.
You talked about a truck being caught on camera driving through that didn't pick up, just drove through and turned around. And did you make the call to G&G to inquire about that, or did somebody else?
No, the town secretary.
So you don't have firsthand knowledge of that conversation? Okay. And were you charged for that drive-by?
As far as I know, the city was charged.
Okay, as far as but you don't know for sure?
I would have to dig up the paperwork and show it to you.
Okay, so as you're sitting here today, you don't know for sure?
Well, not 100%.
And do you know who that driver was?
Nope.
Do you know who is typically the driver for G&G?
No.
You said that issues with G&G started before you were the mayor, going on 11 plus years. Do you recall that? Okay. What do you mean by issues?
Just poor service. There's been multiple people that have looked into trying to start a transfer service because their service was not.
And how do you know that?
Because the people personally told me.
Okay. Have you observed prior to being mayor poor service on G&G's part?
Yes.
Okay, what did you observe?
Turned around because the dump was full. Yeah, the dump was closed because all the dumpsters were full.
Does the town of Ekalaka limit how much garbage each person can bring to the dump? Sorry?
No.
And the dumps, when I say dump, I mean the transfer station, on the
Yes.
same page. And so when people bring garbage to the dump, you're not controlling the volume they bring? And so somebody could bring a pickup truck full?
Yes.
And it could fill the container
Yeah.
pretty quickly?
A pickup will not fill a 20-yard dumpster.
Okay, but if,
Generally on a dump day, we will fill half of the 20-yard dumpster. We have 3 of them that are full. There's been a severe dereliction.
okay, and so how often do you make calls for G&G to pick up?
When there's a full dumpster, a call is made.
When there's one full dumpster?
Yes,
So that means there's one other dumpster.
there's 2 other
Left.
dumpsters.
Well, I believe you testified that there could be 2 or 3 on site, correct?
There's generally 3.
Okay, sometimes 2. Have you made complaints to G&G about the services?
Not personally.
Have you ever called Miles City Sanitation Services to ask if they would haul?
No,
Why not?
I don't recall. It's not the secretary.
Okay. Have you ever instructed the secretary or anyone else to call Miles City Sanitation Services?
No.
Why not?
Because G&G is the one that provides the garbage service for Eclacos. And I didn't know anything about Miles City Sanitation, if they were licensed to haul.
Did you ever call the PSC to make a complaint about hauling? Did you ever instruct anyone to call the PSC and make a complaint about hauling?
No, not.
You run 3 businesses in Ekalaka?
Yep.
How many employees do you have?
Approximately 10.
Do you ever have trouble with an employee?
Yep.
And you have to address that?
Yes.
Can it take some time?
Potentially.
You said you have not seen services improving at any point in this year, during this year?
Services have always fluctuated.
Okay, but services have not improved this year?
Services have always fluctuated.
But could you answer my question, please? Have they improved over the course of the year?
Well, fluctuation means there's always service will go down for a little bit and up for a little bit, so yes and no.
Okay, so how were services in January?
So far, they've been okay.
All year they've been okay?
No, I don't remember the exact date when the truck drove through and didn't pick up the dumpster, but that was the last page.
Okay. And who would know when that truck drove through?
The town secretary,
And what is their name?
Campbell.
So since that truck drove through, G&G has picked up its,
I haven't heard any complaints. That's right.
since you've been mayor, has G&G increased the rates for services it provides?
I don't think so.
Nothing further.
No questions. Just for your knowledge, commission hearings are very different. We often give commissioners a time for cross-examination, and then we'll return to you for any, well, we'll return actually to Ms. Peppas at this point for any redirect or recross, excuse me, and then we'll return to you for redirect necessary.
So just to clarify,
Sure.
direct, cross, recross,
Correct, based on any commissioner questions.
redirect.
Correct.
Which can include recross on any commissioner,
You can redirect on anything that.
and then it
commissioners
will
ask.
go this way again for recross.
Nope, Bill,
So usually there's some recross after redirect.
correct, excuse me, sorry. You're correct.
That's just what I would, so it goes cross,
Correct.
redirect, recross. I missed.
We traditionally do not do any recross after, redirect would be the final opportunity,
And there's no recross after the redirect.
correct. That's how our hearings have traditionally gone.
Okay.
Any commissioner questions? Commissioner Bukacek, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. And no questions from me.
I don't have any redirect.
Would you like to temporarily or permanently excuse this
I
witness?
would like to temporarily, in case you need to call for rebuttal.
Just ask that.
Ask for an
No, yes, I defer.
Okay, temporarily excuse this witness. You may call your next witness.
Thank you. I would call Camille Harkins.
Ms. Harkins, if you sworn in. Okay.
No, I have not, sorry.
Ms. Harkins, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Harkins. Good morning. Could you state your name for the commission?
Camille Harkins,
Could you spell your first name?
Kamely.
Where do you live?
Ecolab.
How long have you lived there?
I've been a resident for 22 plus years.
What is your current occupation?
I'm the town clerk for Ecolab.
Is that a part-time or a full-time?
Full-time.
Are you married?
Not married.
Do you have a long-term partner?
Yes,
And what does he do?
he has a trucking business and works day jobs for me.
How long have you been in that clerk position?
For just about a year.
Does the town of Ecolab provide a garbage service for its residents?
We have a transfer site that people can use it, then it gets taken to make. There's also a private guy that picks up garbage in town and takes it to them.
And does the private service take it to the transfer site?
Yes.
Okay. And could you explain the setup of the transfer site? How many containers and
We have 4 containers that are there usually, and then every 2 days or 2 days of the week, the garbage people are supposed to come in to transfer our containers.
so it is a scheduled pickup of the containers at the transfer site? And has it been that way throughout the duration of you being clerk?
Yes.
And what days a week are those?
I was told when I started and finally got an answer from somebody, it was supposed to be Mondays and Thursdays.
And you were told an answer by someone at G&G?
Yes. But never, so our transfer sites are open on Tuesdays and on Saturdays. And so Mondays they would pick up to be ready for Tuesdays, and then Thursdays was open Saturdays.
Who provides that pickup service?
G&G.
And during your time as a clerk or any other time that you have personal knowledge, did G&G regularly pick up the garbage as scheduled?
Absolutely.
Are there issues with the garbage pickup service that G&G provides?
Yes.
What are some of those issues?
So for the past year, as I can tell you from where I've been, when I started, I got calls saying that our dumpsters were full, nothing had been changed. So I said, well, who do I need to get a hold of? So they told me G&G is who provided the service. So I called for probably over a month and never got a phone call back. Finally, I got somebody on the phone, and I'm sorry, I can't tell you the names, because I obviously didn't write them down, but somebody said, well, they've picked it up. I said, well, they have not. And they told me that they did, and so they told me the address that they picked up. So whoever was picking it up at that time obviously didn't even know where our transfer site was, because they picked a dumpster in town that was for a contractor. Then the lady asked me to go and give her a pin from the actual transfer site, so I did, and they're like, oh, okay, well, that wasn't your guys' then.
What do you mean by pin?
Like a Google pin drop, so like they knew exactly where the address of that was, and I'm like, well, so for how many years have you guys given us this service, and the driver all of a sudden don't know where our transfer site is? Many times I've called and left messages, never gotten returned. I've had a couple issues where I got charged for things that I know that the dumpster was not exchanged. And they tell me that the driver sent them the pin, and so they came and got it. I have put cameras up finally and have caught them come through our yard and take off without bringing one down or exchanging one, taking it back.
So the town of Ecolak installed cameras at that
Yes.
site, and are you able to view those cameras?
Yes.
When you call G&G to request service or to express a concern, how does the phone call work? Like what number?
I always just Google it, and then it comes up, and then it always asks if you're in Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, whatever, so you know it's from Montana, and it sends you to somebody. I don't know where they are. Okay. And I'm sorry, but they're not very friendly. They're not prompt to help you. They're always got an excuse that their trucks are broke, or they're shorthanded, or this and that.
And so for the issues that you described, where there was a pin, they believed they had picked it up. And also when they went into the container site and did not take a container, were you billed for those two instances?
We were built at Corral Creek, and then they fixed it. But at that time, I wasn't really aware of all of this, what happened before, so I didn't keep a close look at that. But I can tell you an incident that in January 26th, they billed us for a pickup, and the camera does not show them there. And I was there on the 27th, and I had all 4 dumpsters.
And when you were say that you were there on the 27th,
I was the one working that day.
you filled in
Yes.
a shift at that transfer site.
Yes.
And you did receive a bill for,
I did receive a bill for the 26th.
but the dumpsters were all full.
Correct.
What does the town do when the dumpsters are full?
So we had to take a dump truck out there so people could use it as a dumpster. We borrowed somebody else's dump trailer so people could use it because our dump is busy. We're filling them up as fast as they go. And then we also bring in a loader, and they will push them in for so more things will fit. But there was times we had to tell people that we're just taking regular garbage at this point because we don't know when the pickup is gonna be.
How many occasions would you say that the town has had to borrow a trailer?
I think it's happened quite often. Since I've been there, I've done it twice that we were too full.
And how many occasions have you had to borrow this or use the city truck?
We will take it out there when we for sure know that they haven't come and got our stuff.
So in the year, have you
In
had
the
to
year.
use the city truck
Twice or 3 times.
in addition to the other dump trailer?
Yeah, and then for a while there was a dumpster that they didn't even know it existed, that it's the town.
So explain that.
Apparently when they bring it up to Baker, I don't know where they take them, but the new driver started and he didn't know that we had 3 of the bigger dumpsters and 2 of the small ones, so one of our biggest ones hadn't been brought down 2 to 3 months.
Did you call regarding that concern?
The driver talked to Michael at the dump site. Because a lot of times the truck comes empty and we always say, why aren't you bringing a dumpster while you come down? But that's just, we're paying mileage for 2 trips.
Did you know about any of these issues with the dump prior to your time as town clerk?
No, I just paid the guy to pick up my garbage usually, so I didn't really realize that. But then when I took the job and they explained it to me, they said, yeah, we had a lot of issues.
Do you live in town? Are you personally affected if the transfer site is full?
Yeah, because if the transfer site can't take our guy that we paid to pick up our garbages can't pick it up because his truck is too full.
What does the town of Ecolaka need as far as in terms of garbage service?
Well, we charge for the transfer site per account, so they're paying $20 a month to be able to use this transfer site, and if you can't use it, then why should you charge them?
Has G&G met the town of Ecolaka's needs for garbage service?
Not in my opinion.
Do you support Southeast Garbage LLC's application for a certificate to haul garbage?
I would give them my 100% support to try something that we're willing to work for our community.
I don't have the additional questions.
Yes.
I see your name correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You live in Ecolaka, and I believe you testified that you paid somebody to pick up your trash, is that
Yeah,
correct?
correct.
And is that Southeast Trash Removal? Correct. And how long have they picked up your trash?
We've only started for about a year.
And prior to that,
We took them out to the
have you had any issues with Southeast Trash Removal's services?
no, just when they can't pick it up, the dumpsters are full.
And what does Southeast Trash Removal use to pick up your trash in town?
He has a garbage truck.
Okay.
Previous to that was pickups that would come around.
And do they pick up once or twice a week?
Ours once a week, and then the businesses are twice a week, 2-3 times.
And do those days coincide with the days that the town's transfer site is open?
Saturdays are the only days that I think he goes out, but usually he has a key to our dumpster. He has a what? A key, oh, sorry.
So Southeast Trash Removal can go in and put trash in the containers at any time.
Correct.
And your attendant's not there when they're doing that.
Correct.
Okay.
He does it after work.
Do you know what kind of volume they typically dump in a week?
No, I don't know.
Just to clarify, did you say that somebody with G&G told you there were regular pickup dates?
Yep.
Okay. And do you know who that was?
I don't know. As I said, I didn't write things down.
And so I believe the earlier testimony from the mayor was that pickup is on call, but that's not correct. It's on a schedule.
That's not what G&G told me. They said it was on schedule, Mondays and Thursdays.
And so do you typically call them for a pickup, or do you expect that they come Mondays
We
and Thursdays?
expect they come, and then when they don't, I usually try and call.
You said that there was you installed cameras and there was a drive-by where they being G&G did not pick up the garbage. And just to clarify, were you billed for a pickup that day?
As I said, I don't recall that I looked at that day.
I believe you testified that there have been times that you were billed when they did not pick up.
There was a one day instance that I know for a fact,
When was that?
January 26th.
Okay. And did you call and ask for a correction to the billing?
I did, and they told me that they had come and picked up, and I said that there was no proof that there was anybody there.
And did they write it off, or did you pay the
No,
bill?
there's nothing been done about it.
Okay, the bill's still outstanding.
No, I paid.
Does the town have a contract with G&G?
I assume, I don't know, I just started a year ago and have a lot to catch up.
You haven't seen it,
I have not.
so you wouldn't know the terms of it. So that's why we have this confusion about whether it's on call or.
Yeah. No, that's what I was told when I called and got somebody to.
Have you had issues with G&G's service since January 26th?
Well, the February 2nd is when they came through and just drove by.
Okay,
Didn't pick it up.
that was the drive-by, okay. And have you had issues since February 2nd?
I haven't heard anything right now. I feel that since the other company has applied for this, yes, it kind of got better.
Have you ever discussed the town's containers with anyone at G&G?
Yeah, anytime I called, I've talked.
Okay. Have you ever discussed the condition of the town's containers?
No, nobody has ever brought it up to my attention.
Not the last year. You wouldn't know before that. Does anyone else at the town typically talk to G&G, or is it all through you?
I believe the driver once in a while will talk to Michael at the transfer station.
And Michael is the town's attendant at the transfer station? You said prior to your tenure at the town, they said there were a lot of issues, they being other people in the city,
Yes.
but you have no knowledge of that firsthand.
No.
Have you ever called the PSC to complain about G&G's services?
No,
Has anyone else in this, on behalf of the town, called the PSC to complain to
not
you?
that I know.
Have you ever called Mouse City Sanitation to provide a quote for
I
services?
called G&G.
I have no further questions.
Commissioner questions, Commissioner Buchek, any questions?
No question, sir.
I have one or two for the witness. So at the transfer site, I have a guy named Mike who works there. And he's the one who said, hey, when I have a full container, they show up, They're not bringing it empty to drop off. And how many times do you think that's happened? Did Mike mention it?
Oh, quite often. This has happened.
Do you think you're billed for that extra trip, or
Yes,
when you,
because my billing, and I could have brought you, I'm sorry about this, but at my billing, it'll tell me sometimes that there has been 9 exchanges. But I don't have 9 containers to be exchanged. So they're charging there and back for going to the Corral Creek, I think, dropping it off, cleaning it, coming back. And they've done it so many times that they've done it.
so I'm imagining on the phone, you'll say, look, it makes sense to bring it empty when you take a full.
Right.
Do they agree and say, we'll do that next time, or do they say, we're not gonna do it?
I've never gotten anything agreed on upon, anytime that I've said that, hey, we need a container down, they can't even tell me.
If I remember right, there are 4 containers. Sometimes they're all full,
You need to say yes or no. Oh, yes, sorry, I'm sorry.
then you supply a trailer and like a backhoe to fill the trailer when, in the event all 4 containers.
Yes,
Who pays for that?
it's been borrowed or it's our town, we own a dump truck, so we use our own.
So the city or the town pays for that expense? Have you ever called them and said, hey, look, you owe us for that money because all 4 containers are full?
No,
No more questions.
yeah.
You should ask them if there's protest in this position.
You wish to cross the witness.
Just a couple of clarification questions, if I may. You said you were billed for 9 exchanges. Is that over a 1-month period?
Yes,
Okay, and you have 4 containers, so so you're billing 9 trips over 1 month.
if not more, that's for one day.
Has this issue of not bringing an empty truck continued in February, March, April, May this year?
I have not kept up with it.
When's the last time it happened?
I can't tell you, I've not kept up with checking that.
So you don't know when the last time they brought an empty was, or if that issue has been
Correct.
corrected?
I don't. I don't check.
And what do you mean by lately?
Like from when I was there and all of this issue has been.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing further.
Redirect.
Thank you. Very briefly. You testified that there were occasions when the garbages had not been picked up and you would call for service or call for them to come and pick them up. Is that correct? And what would you say is the average time for them to come and get the container after you call? Is that sufficient for the town? No. No other questions.
Would you like to temporarily excuse this witness?
Temporarily, please. Thank you.
I temporarily excuse this witness.
Sorry.
For the sake also of timing, also feel free to request any breaks as you need to. Is there a particular parties would like to recess for lunch, generally speaking? I know we still have quite some time, but want to be mindful as we're continuing through witnesses.
I believe we're flexible.
We can be flexible. Noon is a good time, but if we have a witness that will,
Just about done.
yeah,
Let it
we can
finish.
just try to.
Perfect. We'll shoot for noon. Probably try to continue on up until the noon hour then, and take about an hour lunch if that's sufficient.
That's sufficient. Yeah.
Ms. Wassman, you may call your next witness.
Thank you. I would call Ev Neary.
What was that name
Ev
again?
Neary.
She's sworn in.
No,
Mary, you sworn in? You can stand, please.
Okay.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. Your witness.
could you state your name for the commission?
Evelyn Neary,
Could you spell your first and last name?
Evelyn Neary.
Where do you live?
On Sunset Trail,
And is that in Baker or just outside of Baker?
just outside of Baker,
How long have you lived in Baker, in the Baker area?
60 years.
What is your occupation? And can you tell us what you're retired from?
Here, 32 years.
And that would be Fallon Medical Complex?
Yes,
What did you do?
was the clinic and the business office manager.
During your time as the clinic and business office manager, did you sometimes deal with customers?
Every day.
And did you sometimes deal with customer complaints?
Yes.
Moving on to your residents, do you use a garbage service?
Yes.
And what company?
G&G.
How long have you used the garbage service from G&G?
Probably 1988 or around there.
Was it called G&G garbage at that time?
I believe so. That was a long time ago.
Do you have a household garbage container?
Who owns the container? We do. My husband and I. It was purchased in 1988.
And it's the same container?
Yep.
Do you pay any type of insurance for your container or anything like that? Are you?
I have no idea. There's a fee we pay once a year. I don't know what's included in it.
Okay. How often is your garbage planned, scheduled to be collected?
Once a week.
And is it collected once a week?
Now it is.
When you say now, when did that recently? How long has it been collected once a week regularly?
A few months, I suppose.
Have you experienced any issues with G&G's service?
Yes,
What kind of issues?
we had some pretty awful things happen with the billing.
Like, could you explain?
Well, here, a year or two ago, they started telling us that we owed them for 3 months in 2018, but we never got a late notice. And it was years later, we finally proved to them we did not owe the money, and now we pay once a year. And as far as garbage collection, it was kind of hit and miss there for a while, and sometimes they had a kid digging it out of the dumpster with a hanger. And a lot of times, if it was very windy, garbage would end up in our yard. Yeah, picked up needles out of our driveway once upon a time. And there's no reason to be any needles at our house, no one's diabetic or.
And you believe that needles were from the garbage?
Well, it
Collection?
would be after the garbage truck left the yard. I can't prove it was off the garbage truck, but I would assume it is.
So you testify that you pay once a year,
Yes,
and has your garbage been picked up every week of that year?
not always. Recently, it's been there every week.
But in the past year,
We have some issues.
did you observe a G&G employee digging it out of the garbage
Yes,
with a hanger?
yes.
Did you ever report these concerns to G&G?
We tried, but when you call, you just talk to someone in Denver.
Can you tell me about the process of contacting a customer service representative?
We just call the number and get someone in Denver. Which, they were perfectly pleasant people, they just didn't know what was going on.
Were they able to resolve your concerns?
Well, the person that they had doing it doesn't work there anymore.
Customer service person or a garbage truck driver?
The garbage collector.
Did you ever call for delayed service?
No.
And the concern or issue over an outstanding 2018 bill wasn't brought to your attention until 2023?
Probably 22,
Okay,
because I think we've been paying by the year for a couple of years now. It didn't make sense to me. Why did we wait?
and was that difficult to resolve?
Yes,
And they continued to ask you an expected payment until you were able to prove
yes,
that you had paid.
yes.
In your experience, has G&G consistently met your needs?
For the most part.
Do you know whether you have any other garbage provider options?
At this time, we do not, unless we decide to leave her.
Do you know Fred Varner?
Yes,
Do you support Fred's application for
yes,
a certificate? Do you have any concerns about the current service provided by G&G if Southeast Garbage's application is denied?
I would hope that it would continue the way it has been for the last few weeks. Their equipment does not seem to be very well maintained.
And that's your observation?
Well, lots of times there's grease spots in the bed.
And that's from their truck?
Some so it's right by the dumpster.
I don't have any other questions.
Recross, Ms. Adams.
Okay, thanks. You stated you have your own container, is that correct?
Yes,
And is that a 400-gallon black tub? Would that
it's
be
a
accurate?
black tub, but I do not know what the dimensions are.
Is it similar to the black tubs you see in Baker here?
Yes,
And that tub, does it sit outside all year?
yes.
Those are pretty heavy, you can't really move them too easy, can you?
No, ours sits in a big tire, so it doesn't blow.
Okay. And you've had that since 1988, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Do you, are you aware of whether G&G has a program to provide insurance for replacement of tubs?
I have no idea.
You said your garbage is picked up weekly, correct?
For the most part, yes.
You said you pay annually. Do you know what the annual fee you pay is or what the monthly fee would be?
It's $300 and some dollars. I don't know what it is for sure.
Has that changed recently? Has it been at that same rate for some number of years?
Close.
So I believe you said in about 2022, you had an issue with billing that took some time to resolve, correct?
Yes, but I'm not sure of the year.
About 2022, more or less. And you also said you had missed pickups. How many? When were the missed pickups?
I don't know.
In the past year? Once a year, more than once?
I would say 4 to 5 times a year.
But you can't recall the last one? So would it be fair to say not in the last few months?
Yes.
Have you had a missed pickup this year to your knowledge?
I don't.
And
'Cause
prior,
when they missed it, we didn't do anything because we don't, it's never, very seldom is it full. So if they missed it, it was,
okay, and that's a good point. You've never had your garbage overfilling to the point you couldn't use it.
no, and we never called when we did miss it.
Okay. And the missed pickups 4 to 5 times per year, is that been consistent since 1988?
I don't.
Okay. You mentioned that when you tried to work out your billing issue, you had to call somebody in Denver.
Yes.
How do you know that somebody was in Denver?
They told us they were in Denver.
Okay. Do you know who it was?
I don't know.
And you said you worked as the clinic manager, is that correct?
And the office,
How many employees work in the clinic?
around 12,
Did you oversee employees?
19 altogether,
And did you ever have employee issues?
certainly.
And does it sometimes take time to resolve employee issues in your experience?
Yes,
So beyond the customer service issue and the missed pickups, I believe the other issues you testified was you found a needle in your yard once,
more than once,
more than once. When was this?
a few years ago.
Okay. Did you call and report that?
No,
How many times more than once?
I'm gonna say 3 or 4 times.
And this was all a couple years ago or more recent?
No, it was a few years ago.
And then you mentioned you note grease spots near the dumpster sometimes. How often?
Well, for about a year, it was all the time.
And what year was that?
I guess 22 would be a guess.
And have you noticed grease spots in the driveway this year?
No.
You testified that you knew Fred Varner, is that correct?
Yes,
Are the Varners friends of yours?
I would say so.
And so is it fair to say you're here to support your friends?
No. We're not that close of friends, we're more like acquaintances. You live in Baker, everybody's your friend.
And so if the Varners are granted a permit, would you switch services?
Yes,
Would you switch services even if the cost was higher?
yes.
Oh, and you testified that you saw an employee picking garbage out with a hanger?
Yes,
When was that?
several times over the last winter.
Okay.
Because the truck didn't work, so we'd have to get out and drag it out of the dumpster and throw it into the truck by hand.
Okay, and you only noticed that this past winter?
Yes.
Okay, and is that continued after this winter?
No.
And have you had any issues with G&G's service this year?
Yes.
What issues have you had this year?
Well, a lot of times they put the dumpster back down and they start driving before the arms come up from the dumpster. The dumpster, the tire gets dragged several feet. So then my husband has to get the tractor out and push it back so it's not in the middle of the driveway.
Okay, have you let your driver know about that being an issue?
Yes.
And
Not the current driver, but the other one.
so this was an issue with the former driver?
Yes.
Okay, have you had that issue since the new driver took over?
Not as bad.
Have you talked to the new driver about the issue?
No.
Okay. Nothing further.
Yes. Commissioner questions? Commissioner Vukuchek, any questions?
No questions, sir.
And no questions from me. Would you like to temporarily excuse us, please? Redirect.
One question, briefly. You testified that you pay for the year, and that there have been some missed services in that timeframe,
Yes.
but you didn't call G&G when you experienced missed services?
No.
And did you ever ask them to credit your bill?
Only when they were trying to make us pay for 3 months that we didn't know.
Right, but
No, as far as missing a pickup, no, we never do, because we pay once a year.
so you pay for 52 pickups a year,
Correct.
and you only received 48-ish. Okay, thank you. Nothing
Would you like to temporarily excuse us?
temporarily, please.
You're excused.
Thank you.
Would you like to call your next witness?
I would, thank you. If I may go speak with my witnesses, I know one of them has a time issue. I just want to ask if it's okay if I switch.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break so you can
Thank you.
confer with the witness. Or after it. We'll reconvene 10 after.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it is now 11:10. We're back on the record. Call your next witness.
Thank you. I would call John Giving.
John, have you sworn in?
No, I haven't.
Okay, remain standing.
Okay,
John, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Your witness.
Thank you. Could you state your name for the commission?
John Giving,
How do you spell your last name?
GEV is in Victor, ING.
Where do you live?
Live at 608 Roxy Lane, south of Baker. About a mile and a half,
How long have you lived there?
28 years.
How long have you lived in Baker area?
All my life. Since 16.
What is your current occupation?
I have a contract for the school. I do all their busing. Yellow bus, route side of it, and then the activity side where we haul kids to and from sporting events.
Do you have a need for a garbage service out there on Roxy Lane?
Yes, I do.
What type of service do you need?
Well, basically, I have a residence at Roxy Lane at 608. We don't need much of the service at the Spartan Bus Barn because we are adamant that we like to have the garbages dumped at the schools because it's being created there. So I'm not saying on an occasion it wouldn't be necessary, but for now it doesn't seem like it's important to have pickup at the bus barn.
And what do you expect out of a garbage service provider?
Well, when we signed up for it back, I think when Griffith was doing it, we were having a weekly service, you know, and it was on Wednesday. We had service every Wednesday. And then, of course, we use the landfill ourselves from time to time just because we have sometimes more garbage and, you know, than what the dumpster will handle or larger items that we haul ourselves. So yes, I definitely, there's a need.
And do you currently have a garbage service provider?
I do,
Who is that?
G&G Garbage.
How long have they been doing that?
You know, since they started, I mean, I'm not sure, has it been 5 years? I hate to say because I'm not 100% sure what the time frame was, but I've had service ever since they've been in business.
And when you say ever since they've been in business, like what changed?
You know, when the service first started, you couldn't tell there was any difference between the service that we had prior to them. I mean, anybody can have problems. I mean, you can have a breakdown and you may not show up on Wednesday, but more likely you're gonna be there Thursday or not by Friday. What changed in the last couple of years, it seems like we weren't getting service every Wednesday. The service that we were getting was sometimes it would be a week late, sometimes it'd be 2 weeks late. So we would call and ask why. The excuse was that the truck was broke down or they were having issues with the truck most of the time is what we heard. And last summer, I'd have to say was probably starting to be noticing there was the service wasn't there. We weren't getting service every Wednesday. And then in November, after Thanksgiving rolled around, we got no service until probably sometime after January. And we hauled garbage to town because it was over the Christmas break and Christmas, so on and so forth. So I'm guessing there was about 6 weeks. We called, asked them what was going on. Basically, they told us that they finally admitted that the truck was broke down and that they would get out there to get our garbage. And it just didn't happen yet. And I'm not going to refer to an exact date because I don't know, but it was sometime after the first year, probably into the second week before we got a truck to deliver or come and pick up.
And when you said you would call for service, what did that look like? Did you call on the phone?
I didn't call myself, my wife did, called believe it's in Colorado number. I mean, I think it was going to Dickinson for a while, and then it was transferred to somewhere else, maybe Denver, I'm just assuming. And that's where we paid the bill, that's where basically we were calling to.
And when your wife called to request service or express an issue, were they responsive and did they come and take care of it timely?
I'm gonna object on hearsay grounds. He's testified that he didn't make these calls, his wife did. It's like hearsay.
Not asking him about any statements that were made. He has testified that he was aware that his wife did call and he knew when she made those calls. And I'm just asking if he observed a response.
And now she's asking about the content of the calls, which would be the hearsay statements.
That's the question.
Question, when your wife called to request service or express an issue, were they responsive and did they come and take care of it timely?
Abstain.
You testified that you are aware that your wife did make calls for service. And were you aware of the time frame of the calls that she made?
Generally speaking, it was the following week after the service should have been taken care of, and it didn't happen. It was not happening, and especially during that period in November, December. We called numerous of times. My wife called, I shouldn't say, and they said that they would be there shortly. And again, another week would go by, and we still didn't have the service.
Did you ever have any problems with billing?
You know, they were doing paper billing for a while. I prefer that, but then my wife was getting it on her email and I wasn't always seeing it. She wasn't printing it off, so I requested to get an email of the bill, so I pay the bills. I did get it for a short period of time. What happened, I don't know, and now I haven't received a bill probably since first part of the year. I'm gonna say January is the last bill that I've got. I just asked my wife when I left now, and she pulled it up and she showed that there was a $22.50 bill due. And I know there's more due than that because that's all it states. It's an invoice, not a statement.
So what do you mean by that?
Well, because I'm sure that I owe more than $22.50 because I haven't wrote a check out this year yet, and this is May.
And so the most current bill you're saying doesn't reflect?
It never reflects prior due.
Do you have any other options for garbage service that you know of?
I don't believe I do.
In your experience, has G&G consistently met your needs for service? In your experience, has G&G consistently met your needs for garbage service?
I have to say no.
Has the service gotten better in the last couple of months?
I'm gonna say in the last month. I'm not gonna go as far as say 2.
Do you know Fred Varner?
I do.
Do you support Fred's application or Southeast Garbage's application for a Class D certificate?
I would support him 100%.
Do you have any concerns about your current garbage service if Southeast Garbage's application is denied?
I guess my only concern is just fulfill what you originally gave us as far as what service you're intending on doing. And that hasn't been good up until maybe the last month.
Do you have any other complaints about G&G's service?
No, I guess when you pay for a service, you just hope that you get the service that you're paying for.
No further questions.
Ms. Pappas? Any questions?
Morning.
Good morning.
So to clarify, you have residential service at your home on Roxy
Yes,
Lane, is that correct?
yes.
And do you have service also at your bus barn?
I do
wasn't
not.
clear, okay. You do not currently have service there?
Yep.
And have you had service there in the past? So what do you do with any trash at your bus barn?
I take it to my residential if I need to, but like I said, for the most part, we implement that the drivers always park in the back of the school, and there's only 6-7 dumpsters back there. It's just one less thing that we have to deal with when it comes to garbages off our buses.
And do you have a large black tub containers?
Yes, I have the plastic, I don't know what they are, yard wise, but you know, I'm sure they're not the actual commercial size, but that's what.
And they're similar to what you see in Baker here?
Yep,
And if I said there were 400 gallons, would that sound accurate to you?
I would say that's close, yeah.
Do you typically fill up that container?
Normally, it's usually full every week.
And so, other than your residential service, have you used G&G for any other services?
We have used their large containers when we had a ranch north of town. We did use their services from time to time. Nothing real on a monthly, annual basis, just if we needed something we were cleaning up, you know, we need a larger
Okay,
container.
and so you would use a roll-off container, is that accurate?
Yeah.
And this was just as needed, correct?
It was actually north of Baker. And there was no service out there, so.
There was no regular trash,
No.
garbage service, okay. And so how often did you use a roll-off container up there?
Probably used it twice in a 10-year period.
And do you know what that period would have been?
Well, we bought the place from my cousin, and there was a lot of stuff over the years that accumulated. We actually got a container from Baker Metal, so all of the metal issues went into the Baker Metal dumpster, and all the just trash and stuff that could be taken to the landfill got put into that room.
Okay, and do you know approximately when this was?
I'm gonna say it was probably 5 years ago.
Okay.
Up until 12 years ago is when we bought the place, so.
Okay.
And I'm guessing we had got the dumpster the first year we were there, and then we had other cleanup that we needed one for.
So once about 12 years ago and once about 5 years ago, is that accurate? Okay. And were those one drop only roll-offs where they dropped them, you filled it, and then they took them away, or did they return?
No, they just took them one time.
Okay, and did you have problems with those services?
At that time, no.
Do you have employees in your bus
I
contracting
do, I
business?
have 8 employees.
And are they all based in Baker?
Yes.
Do you ever have difficulty getting employees?
There's been times that there's been an issue. We play a pretty good role in what goes on in our community and school. And so fortunately, I've got 4 family members that drive for me. And when you're a small business, sometimes you rely back on your family because sometimes people can't show up. And I understand there's illness. But for the last 4 years, I'm gonna say I have more than enough help.
Okay, between your family and your employees, is that accurate? Have you ever had trouble with an employee?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever had an employee hit something with a bus?
We've been hit and we've also hit, yes, absolutely.
That comes with the business, I'm guessing, to some degree when you're putting on that many miles?
Yeah.
Do your employees have CDLs?
Yes.
Does that make for a smaller pool of applicants if you need a new employee?
Well, the state and federal has made it a lot more difficult because they used to be able to just get the endorsements. You could have a CDL. They've changed some of that to the point where now they're requiring you to have a course that you have to go and do a 2-week or a 6-week course online or actually go to a college to do it. So far, right now, we've got everybody that is licensed have got under that part of the going to school. Been able to, it had CDLs and they just needed an endorsement.
And do you do safety training for your
Yes, we
drivers?
do.
Regular training?
15 hours of training a year. And we have, every 2 years, we have our first aid and CPR through the school itself.
Fair to say safety is important when you're driving big vehicles full of
Yes.
kids? Yeah. So you stated that your containers are full pretty much every week, correct?
Mhm.
And then you said that you had a period from November to January that you didn't have any pickups
Right.
from G&G, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so what did you do with your garbage during that time?
We hauled it either to town to a dumpster that was available, or we hauled it to the city landfill, the city dump, I should say, it's not a landfill.
And did you ever call G&G about pickups yourself?
I called them one time, probably not within this last 6 months, but I have called and talked to them. It wasn't my wife is usually the one that was home and realized that we didn't get service.
Okay, and so the one time you called them, do you know when that was?
No, I don't. I mean, it maybe been, it's within the last year, I'm guessing, probably.
Okay,
Could have been a year ago.
and do you know where the person you spoke to was located?
I'm thinking they were in Denver, but that's all I know, because it's an 800 number, so you don't know,
Why do you think they were in Denver?
because that's what I was told.
Do you know who told you that?
My daughter worked for them for quite a while, so she knew the headquarters at Dickinson and the others.
Okay, so your daughter told you that
She just said that she thought that they were headquartered out of Denver, or the owner lived in Denver, so when we would call the number, and I believe it went to Dickinson because it didn't go here, it transferred, from what I know.
Okay. Now, you said when G&G started, you think in the last 5 years, is that when the company transferred from its previous owner? Is that what you're?
No, I've had the Busmans for 23 years,
I'm sorry,
23 years.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your answer. Can you read that back?
I didn't get understanding it. When the business transferred from the previous owner, you said 23 years?
That's when I got the contract for Spark Glass,
Oh,
23 years
yeah.
ago.
and I'm sorry, do you know when you said that G&G started in the last 5 years in your direct testimony? Do you mean the transfer of ownership of G&G, or what did you mean by that?
Well, once, if I'm not mistaken, Griffiths had the service. They're the ones that provided it, and then G&G bought it from them. Is that correct?
Okay, and you think that happened in the last 5 years?
Maybe longer ago than that. I guess I'm not 100% sure. I know that for the last 5 years, I'm guessing it's been G&G.
Okay. And so you stated that your service, when did you first have service with G&G?
I'm assuming when they took the business over.
And did you have service with the previous owners?
I did.
Okay, and how long did you have service with the previous owners?
I don't know exactly the time frame, because once they started offering the service, we took it.
Okay, so is it fair to say quite a few years?
Yep.
Okay,
I'd say it's been
and
a
then,
number of years.
and then your testimony was that your service was fine up until the last few years, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, and when you say few, does that mean
Last 2 to 3, actually.
2 to 3, okay. And so what, in last 2 to 3 years, they stopped missing weekly service pickups, is that correct?
Yes.
And have they, you said they only resumed weekly service pickups in the last month?
No, it's always been a Wednesday pickup.
Okay, but when did they, you testified that the service has only gotten better in the last month, so did they only stop missing pickups in the last month?
What I'm saying is that up until probably 2 years ago, the service was pretty consistent.
Okay,
And then things started going south where we weren't getting the pickup on a weekly basis.
okay, and that, are you now getting pickup on a weekly basis?
I've seen the truck there twice in the last month, so I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, when was the last time you know you had a missed pickup?
Wednesday,
This
This
Wednesday? There was a missed
last
pickup?
week,
Okay,
today's Monday, about a week ago.
okay, and so you had a missed pickup that day?
They were there.
Okay,
The
so,
last Wednesday and the prior Wednesday, I know that I seen the truck come and go.
okay, and so can you recall the last time that there was a missed pickup?
Not specifically, but I know we had a couple of different missed pickups, and I'm not saying that they weren't there during the week, they just weren't there on the day they said they were going to be. And that would have been sometime after January when the service started back again, once they got trucks fixed or they got rolling or whatever the case may be.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand. So in January, they resumed service to you, and there may have been pickups that were off by a day after that, but you haven't had any week you've gone without service since January, is that accurate?
Well, as far as say that, I'm not so sure that there was times in February, whether it was road conditions or what, I'm not gonna say it was necessarily G&G's fault. I'm saying that we did not get service and we weren't a high snow year this year, so it wasn't like the county doesn't get in because they keep our road pretty clean because of the bus service. So, as far as being 100% consistent, I will vouch for the last last 30 days has been pretty consistent.
Okay, but you don't know when they missed it before that? Okay. You testified that you requested that billing be sent to your email and that billing stopped appearing in your email?
I haven't got it probably for 6 months.
Okay. Have you checked your junk box or made sure to add them as a sender? Okay, and have you reported to them that you stopped getting the emails?
I haven't, but I'm speaking for my wife. She called them probably two months ago, I'll say, find out what our balance was. And again, she did that today because I said we would need to get this paid up in full, but I haven't got an email and her email does not show a full balance. It just shows an invoice.
But you haven't called G&G to let them know you're not getting emails?
I'm gonna break here.
Are you aware of what your bill is per month for G&G?
$22.50.
And that's for weekly service? On average, 4 pickups a month? If they're providing pickups.
4 pickups a month.
And has that bill changed in the last 5 years?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's been consistent.
You testified that you know Fred Varner, is that correct?
I do.
How do you know Fred Varner?
A personal friend, two of my boys have worked for him over the years. Not so sure that my daughter hasn't worked for him. first started the bus business, he loaned us his shop to take our buses in to have some work done on them. We didn't have a shop built yet, so going more on a personal side rather than business side.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. No further questions.
Commissioner questions. Commissioner Boothcheck, any questions?
No question, sir.
And no questions.
Redirect. I believe this witness can be excused
Permanently or?
permanently.
Okay, sure, permanently excused.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Sussman, and one more witness before the,
That would be great.
Okay.
I would call Robert Singer.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Singer. I need you to stand and swear in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wasman?
Thank you. Could you state your name for the commission?
Robert Singer,
Where do you live?
71 Sunset Trail.
And is that just outside of Baker in Fallon County?
Yes.
How long have you lived there?
Probably 50 years, close to.
What is your occupation?
I'm retired now,
And what occupation are you retired from?
Postal Service,
How long were you in that field?
35 years.
And are you married?
Yes,
What does your spouse do?
she is retired from the insurance business. That's a lifelong too.
Do you have a need for garbage service at your residence?
Yes, I do.
And what are your fees for garbage service out there?
Mostly household garbage.
Do you have a garbage service company that provides your garbage service pickup?
Yes,
And what company is that?
G&G garbage.
How long have you had their service?
I don't know the exact years.
Would you say you've had their service for more than 5 years?
Oh, yes.
Do you have like a black tub garbage container at your house?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Do you own that container?
Yes, I do.
What arrangement do you have with G&G for picking up your garbage? How often?
They come once a week, usually on Wednesdays, unless they have some sort of problem.
Have you experienced any problems with the garbage service that G&G provides?
Yes, I have.
And what kinds of problems?
Well, they damaged my dumpster in the last go around, probably 2 weeks ago, I would say. They picked up the entire container in the stand that I have and smacked it down on the ground and broke the stand, which I repaired myself, but that was kind of my last straw.
Did you have any other, so what you're saying is it only damaged the stand?
No, the container over a period of the last probably 5-6 months has been damaged more and broken from being squeezed too tight.
And did you call G&G to express your concerns?
Yes, we did. Even sent them an email about it the last go around, about the container and the stand.
And did you receive a response from them?
Yes, they did call me. Well, I went down and talked to the young man that picks it up to start with, and he relayed the message to Michael, I believe, is the person he talked to. And they did call me.
Who did?
Michael did. Over the phone, so.
And how did he address your concerns?
Well, he said they were having problems with their truck, which I've known for 6 months or so. They've got 3 different trucks out there. And when he said they would bring a new container or a different container, and they would look at mine. When I talked to him, he said he would be there on Wednesday with the garbage guy, and they would look at the dumpster and replace it, and pay for fixing mine. I'm not a professional welder, but I can fix my own, so, which I did.
And did Michael go to your house then that Wednesday?
No, I did not see him. The garbage guy came to pick it up. I believe it was Wes, the young man's name. He picked it up and was going to remove my container. And I asked him where he was going with it. He said, I'm going to take this one and bring you a different one. And I said, I own that container. It does not leave here. So they did leave mine and went and got a different, way larger container that they tried to put in the stand that I have, which it would not fit in that stand. So consequently, I picked it out of there after they had dumped the garbage and just set it there. I took my stand and everything away, so they just had a garbage container sitting on the ground.
Did you have any other issues with their service or their?
No, I don't think especially, the only other problem I had was the condition of the equipment that they sent earlier with the young man that was picking it up, that had to literally pick the garbage bags out of the dumpster and put them in a truck. That was even poorer shape than the one that they had with the oil problems, hydraulic leaks or whatever when you pick them.
And how do you know about hydraulic leak problems?
Well, in my farming business, working my entire life with that sort of stuff, I don't know the computer, I'll say things about hydraulics, but I know enough about hydraulics to know when you put pressure to a line and it sprays all over, you have a leak. So.
And did you observe a leak?
Yes.
On your property?
Yes.
Did you call them about that issue?
I did not. I talked to the young man who was driving the truck. He told me they were trying to get it fixed, but they sprayed one time sprayed the entire garbage can when they picked it up with hydraulic oil. And another time or two, there's hydraulic oil on the ground. So, you know, they definitely had a fleet that should have been taken care of.
And when you say the employee was fishing it out, or however you phrased it, do you mean by hand?
Yes,
And did you see him do that?
I physically helped him
So you went out
on
and,
different occasions.
and did you speak to Mike again about replacing your dumpster?
Not after the phone calls, I did not. The young man that was there that picked up my garbage the next week on Wednesday, I asked him what his boss told him. He said, I never talked to my boss.
When did you first observe these problems?
I would say they'd probably go back December and January.
December of 2023
Yes.
and January of 2024? Did you ever have any of the issues you described prior to that?
Not really. I guess they, you know, the equipment, I just figured it was that way. They always seem to grab the container at a peculiar angle, I'd say, when they picked it up, and I often talk to them about that and watch them pick it up. For whatever reason, it was that way. So,
And did the way that they were picking up your container affect your container?
yes, they, I don't know if you know, I assume you people know what the container looks like. You pick it up on the wide part with the tongs, and then it slide down and lock on the bottom part, which would squash the can, and that's what's broken around the back. And I even reinforced mine with a steel plate around it to help that problem. So that was, I'm not sure, but you know, how long before.
And when was the hydraulic leaking problem? How long ago?
I'm gonna say that was in February, March. I'm not positive about that.
Of this year?
Yes.
And what was your experience like calling, using their customer service phone call system?
When we called, they always referred us to some of the phone. I believe it was a Denver number, or different number, but I know in our billing, we pay for the year, and every month we would get a statement. I know my wife talked to them several times about it. They always was gonna correct it, but every month we get a bill.
Did they ever miss any pickups?
Only by a few days, or if they were broke down, they might miss a week.
In your experience, has G&G consistently met your needs for garbage service?
Well, they could get picked up if that's what you mean. I think the conditions of their equipment wasn't satisfactory.
And from your complaints, the time of your complaints, has it gotten better, the service?
I would say no. I know they got a different truck, and the term that was given to me was they're trying to dial it in to do better. But
And who said that?
Michael told me that.
What is your understanding of who Michael is?
I take it he's a CEO or a partner in this business.
And do you know that they got a different truck?
Yes,
How do you know that?
because they got the city truck. I'm pretty familiar with what the city has put on their agenda to be sold. The city sold their old garbage truck. G&G bought it,
Do you know Fred Varner?
yes.
How long have you known him?
Since he was born.
Have you ever worked around him?
I've worked around Fred, yes. Not for him, but around him.
Did you ever observe Fred's equipment or his treatment of his equipment?
Yes.
What were some of your observations?
Fred runs a top-notch unit. He never has dirty equipment. His equipment is always clean. And I've never known Fred to have broken down equipment on any kind of a job, whether it's in the oil field or for some private person.
Do you support Southeast Garbage's application for a certificate to haul garbage?
Yes,
And if that application is approved, would you consider using their services?
yes, sir.
Do you have any concerns if Southeast Garbage's application is denied about your current provider?
The only thing I'm concerned about is if they're denied, is this service going to go back to what it was and not be upgraded to handle it properly?
No further questions, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Pappas, would you like to cross?
Certainly, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Singer. You testified, you get residential service at your property at 71 Sunset Trail in Baker, is that correct?
Yes,
And you worked for the USPS for a number of years?
I did for a number of years. I'm retired now.
And I believe you said you also have an ag operation, or do you farm?
Yes, I do. I have hay ground. I got a half section of land that I put up hay on. I do not farm, but I do put up hay and I don't have livestock anymore.
You have a swather,
Yes,
baler,
yes,
tractor?
yes.
Do those equipment pieces take maintenance
Of course they do.
pretty regular?
Yes,
Is farming hard on equipment?
yes, it is.
If somebody isn't maintaining the equipment, will it break down quickly?
Yes, it will.
Do you have any reason to believe that the garbage hauling business is not hard on equipment?
No, I don't have any reason to believe it's not, but I think it needs to be maintained, taken care of.
Sure. And so if you're not maintaining the equipment, if somebody fails to maintain the equipment, it's gonna break down.
So,
Have you ever used any other services other than the residential service from G&G?
I use the landfill myself. I haul garbage out there or trash, whatever they don't. You know, I don't feel goes in tree branches, stuff like that. No, I haven't used them for anything else.
You've never had a roll-off container brought out to your place or anything?
Only for bigger metal.
And that's for scrap metal, correct?
Yeah.
Not destined to the landfill?
Well, it's just for them, not the landfill.
Sure. And you have the same black tub, I believe, that as the other folks that have been testifying, is that accurate?
Well, now I do not, but I did
Okay.
have, you know, the same size container.
Okay. And if I represented it was around 400 gallons, does that sound accurate?
You know, mine's smaller. This new one they brought, like I said, would not fit in a container. When they pushed it down in there, it was still 2 and 3 inches off the ground or off the pad that I have it on. And I know if they picked it up, they would have took the stand and everything with it. So I just took it out and just set it there. So there's nothing, holding, so. The wind blows, I have to chase.
And you testified that up until the new container that was delivered, the container that you had, you owned?
Yes,
Do you know when you purchased that?
whenever they started the garbage business.
And they being the
I don't
current,
know what year they started it.
okay, would it be more than 10 years ago?
Yes, it would.
And does that container stay outside all year?
Yes,
And it's made of plastic or rubber, is that correct?
it's made of a poly material that's built to be outside, stand the weather.
Sure. Does that material break down over the years?
Sunlight does some over a period of years, but I'd say not short period of years.
Did G&G charge you for the new container?
For the new one?
Mhm.
No. I discussed that with him, and my discussion with him was, he said he would replace my container if they needed, and they did. But I asked him, I said, now, if that container you're bringing is yours, not mine, because I paid for mine. So he said, well, we'll replace yours. So I said, as far as I'm concerned, that container belongs to you folks, then, not to me.
Okay.
So it's yours.
Okay. And when you bought your container, do you recall how much you paid for it?
Yes, I do.
How much was it?
I don't think that's relevant to what you're asking.
We'll see.
Sorry.
Can
That's my
you answer the
business, what I
question?
paid for it.
Can you answer what you paid for it?
I will, if that's what you want to know,
Yes,
but I don't
please.
think that's relevant.
Okay.
Objection, I would bring up the relevance of what he paid for his container way back, he can't even remember.
Well, he testified he can remember what he paid for his container, he just doesn't want to tell us.
He did
And
not,
it is relevant to the question of whether G&G is providing an adequate service here. The testimony about how much these containers cost and how much how much people are being charged for service is highly relevant, especially given G&G replaced this container at its own cost. What kind of costs they were incurring is relevant, and what he paid for it whenever he purchased it is relevant.
my objection was that he could not recall the year that he purchased it. And he's saying his private purchases are private, and I think G&G can testify as to what they paid for the replacement container. But I don't know that it matters what Mr. Singer paid in the 80s, 90s, or 2000s.
Overruled.
So can you direct Mr. Singer that he needs to answer the question?
Could you tell us, Mr.
I paid
Singer, when
$175 if I remember right for it.
Thank you. When you testified that the old container, the stand had become broken too, correct? Did G&G offer to fix the stand?
He said that I could take it to Baker Metal and have it repaired, which I told him at that time that I would repair my own.
Okay, so was G&G offering to do that at G&G's cost though?
Yes. Soon we did. I didn't discuss the cost. I just told him I'd fix it.
And have you called to let G&G know that the can is not fitting in the old stand? The new can is not fitting in the old stand?
No, I did not.
You said you were concerned about the condition of the equipment and you talked to the driver. Do you know the driver's name?
Wes was the driver I talked to last, I believe that's his name.
Okay,
I just met him a couple times and visited with him when he was there, picked him up.
okay. And so Wes is the young man? And how long has he been driving?
I have no idea how long it's been with GNG.
Are you familiar with any previous drivers?
Yes,
Who?
Bobby Wood, I believe Gary Ergens drove, I think, Corey Duffy drove for him. I don't know who some of the others were back when the Griffiths had it, the Griffith boys drove.
And so when you discussed the hydraulic oil spraying, when was that?
I don't know the exact date.
Do you know who the driver was then?
Corey was driving.
And have you had that happen since Corey was driving? Since this new young man Wes showed up?
No, not since West was driving. The only thing that's had spots on the ground that were not major, some oil leaks that were there.
When was that?
Sometime in March, I guess it was.
Did you let Wes know about that?
No,
Did you call GFG to let them know about it?
I visited with Michael about that when he called me, and that's as far as it went.
Okay, and that was just in the last few weeks that you talked to Michael?
Between the 6th and the 10th of May, when I talked to him, sometime there.
Okay, sometime in the last month, in the month of May. Okay. Do you fill your garbage can every week?
No. Our garbage can rarely is probably over half full, so.
And going back to your testimony, have you experienced missed pickups where GNG didn't come one week?
Well, they usually come on Wednesdays and pick it up, but lately they've been anywhere from Wednesday to Thursdays, different days.
Okay, but they're coming every week?
Yeah.
Okay, and in the past, have they missed pickups for you?
I can only think of 1 or 2 occasions that they might have missed a day because their trucks broke down.
Okay, would that be in the last year?
Yeah, within the last year.
Okay, 1 or 2 missed
I
pickups?
can't tell you the exact dates.
You said you called customer service and you got a referral to a different number that you thought was in Denver. Do you recall that?
I believe so. I wouldn't back on phone records, so to speak, or whatever.
And why did you think it was in Denver?
Because the Dickinson office told us they no longer handle this stuff.
Okay, so they gave you a number to a different office, but you don't know which office it was.
Whatever that number was.
The other issue you said was that you received a bill monthly, but you pay annually.
Yes.
But there haven't been any collections issue matters.
Well, my wife calls them and visits with them. They're always going to take care of it, but it never happens. It keeps coming back every month.
So you get the bill every month, but you still just pay
We
annually.
pay for the year, so.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like they're demanding us to pay every month or they won't pick it up. So,
They've never refused pickups to you?
what's that?
They've never refused pickups?
No.
Has the conditions of the equipment improved this year? And when I say the equipment, I mean GNG's equipment.
I would say no,
No?
maybe slightly maintained, but the new garbage truck to me is a piece of worn out equipment that the city got rid of. And that's not gonna solve the problem.
What is your relationship to Fred Varner?
Just friends.
You've been friends all of your lives?
Yep.
Do you know how much you pay annually for your garbage service?
I don't pay what I told Bill's wife pays per year.
Do you know if it's gone up in the last 5 years? Do you know if the garbage bill has gone up in the last 5 years?
I would say yes, it has, but I can't tell you. the amount.
You don't know though. Your wife would be a better person to ask.
Right.
When you worked for USPS, did you work in Baker?
Yes,
And who handled the garbage service for the post office?
the city,
City of Baker
Yes.
does hauls their own garbage? Did they ever have any issues with breakdowns?
not that I'm aware of.
So just to summarize on this most recent issue you had a garbage can that you own and you've had for many years, we don't know how many. Is that fair?
Yeah,
And G&G replaced that garbage can, you kept your can, and you now have another can that you can put garbage in.
yes,
G&G offered to replace the cage around the can, but you fixed it yourself,
no, they did not offer to replace it,
to fix it.
repair it, I did it, so,
You ended up doing it yourself. And right now, you're not using that cage because it doesn't fit with the new container.
right,
But you haven't let G&G know that that cage doesn't fit, so you don't know how they'd respond
no,
to that issue.
because I knew what would happen when they picked it up, because they jammed it down in there. And when they pick it up, they're gonna take the whole container and the stand and everything with it, which happened before, so.
And that's what would happen if you had
One
it,
at a time, one at a time.
and what you're saying, that's what would happen if you kept it in the current stand.
Yes,
Okay. And so when you made your complaint, you complained to the local driver
yes,
and he relayed that complaint into G&G. And then did you get a call from Michael?
I told you yes.
Okay, I'm making sure I've got everything in my head. Okay, and you haven't made any calls to G&G since then?
No.
And you haven't talked to the driver about any other changes you'd like since then?
No.
Okay. Nothing further?
I know it's after 12, but in respect to Mr. Singer, I think we can finish in 5 minutes, then we don't have to ask you to come back. Any commissioner questions? Commissioner Bukacek, any questions?
No questions.
I only have one quick one. So the new container you feel is theirs. Do you feel they should return the $175 to you?
No.
Okay.
No, because my explanation to him was that the container belongs to G&G now, not mine. So, you know, it's up to them to maintain it, take care of it, I guess.
No more questions. Any recross?
I have no redirect.
Would you like to permanently excuse this witness?
I would like to temporarily excuse him.
Sir, you are temporarily excused. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, then we will take lunch recess. How about we come back at 12:15? Any objection to that? Everybody okay with it?
1:13?
I'm sorry.
12:15 will be a little tight.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's go off the record. Well, first off, is that okay? Is 1:15?
Yeah.
All right, so we're off the record.